Good morning, good evening, depending on what time anybody's watching this. I've got the lovely Jonathon Fashanu with me today on my series about Let's Talk Stress. And I met Jonathon a while ago and was intrigued because he does a lot of work for a charity called Campaign Against Living Miserably. And so I wanted to talk to him to see he might have a story to tell around stress and his involvement with that and so on. So let's make a start. So Jonathon, tell me a little bit about you and what you do and what you like about what you do perhaps as well.
Cool. Thanks, Tricia. Okay, so I run an architecture and engineering company, building the design studio that focuses on sustainable design and sort of responsible construction. And we sort of like just deviated and put sort of sustainability as the emphasis because it's something we're passionate about, both myself and Jack, the founders. Because there's a better way to do it, and a lot of people just think sustainability means added cost. But if you think of how you want to do something in the best way possible, it naturally just becomes more cost effective and more sustainable. So that's what I do. I'm the structural engineer, so I do a lot of the engineering and the specification of materials for that.
I love the way you work as well. So I saw your some of the photos of some of the jobs that you did, and they're really stunning. And the fact that you've been able to introduce sustainability into something I never thought could be particularly sustainable is really fantastic. I was also very taken when we spoke the other day, and you said, "Oh, what time are you calling me? Because I don't have my phone on while I'm working." And I thought, oh my God, this is so refreshing, because so many people are emotionally attached to their phone. So A, you're able to disengage from your phone so that you can concentrate, and B, it really spoke of the passion and the creativity that you have, which sounds like something that comes naturally when you disengage from the busyness of the world. So yeah. I was quite taken with that.
I think it's important when you really want to apply yourself to anything, to just get into that state of flow, and for me it just means like my phone is always on silent, and I've turned off all my notifications. So when I want to use the phone, it's almost like a deliberate action to engage with the phone, you know what I mean? And it just keeps distractions out. But at the same time, it's really annoying for clients and suppliers because I run the business. So there's that balance, because like everybody knows that if you call me, you can't get me. It'll go into a voicemail, but that's better as well, because I listen to your voicemail, I'm prepared for the conversation, and we can have something that's a bit more relevant, a relevant discussion.
Brilliant.
So that's kind of how I prefer to work.
I think that's brilliant, because a lot of people are too reactive, and then they're being reacted in the conversation rather than being considered. So you sound like somebody who might be really good at time management, one of my hot subjects.
No, I'm terrible at it.
All right, well,
I'm terrible at time management because I won't go to the phone, or I won't look at my watch. So coming out of a state of flow is when I've hit like my objective that I've set out to do. Sometimes that could be 3 hours, sometimes that could be 5, really depending on what I want to do. It's been a lot more difficult in the lockdown because I have the 2 little ones. I've got a 2-year-old he's going to be 3 in July, and I've got a 11-month-old who's also going to be 1 in July. So the piercing screams just shattered through that whatever flow state you can't have.
July, a busy month for you then.
my partner Celeste, yeah, she's a July baby as well. So
as well. Oh crikey! Wow. Okay, so tell me about the Campaign Against Living Miserably.
Cool. So the Campaign Against Living Miserably is a charity that's for male suicides under 45. So it's also one of those things that you don't actually think about, or you don't even realize the statistics. before you start doing the research about it and start putting
it's alarming,
stuff
isn't
out
it?
there. Exactly. So the single biggest killer of men under 45 in the UK is suicide, which is really unfortunate. It causes about 18 young men lose their lives almost every day. It's tragic, and the reason why I sort of got involved with Calm was kind of like I sort of had a bit of a couple of episodes last year, because it was all surrounded around sort of toxic masculinity and me feeling a certain way about it, because I've had so this is the first time we're talking about it outside of therapy or to my close family. So apologies if I feel a bit, I'm trying to articulate it in the best way possible.
Thank you for being so open and sharing as well. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so basically there was a period where I was kind of unhappy. On the surface it looked like I wasn't, because I just got married, I had a kid on the way, business was going very well. From the surface level, if you looked at it, the picture of Jonathon Fashanu was like, oh, this guy is smashing it, you know? But deep down there was this sort of like disconnect of being raised with certain ideals or values, because I come from a very traditional, my dad's traditional African male. It's very like surrounded about the man and the male and about his dominance on what's around him. My dad's also a chief, so he's a community leader, which means that he has to exert authority. And being the firstborn, I was always in that shadow of authority, you know, and always put in the limelight, which is quite uncomfortable as a kid growing up. I'm also like, on my mom's side, there's a staunch Catholic family, so there's that whole, you know, male dominance around religion as well, you know, and I was in the army as well, because in Singapore you have to do the army. So if anything, that whole, my life and its trajectory was always, there were all these male values that you have to be the best, you have to be the biggest, you have to be the strongest, you have to be the smoothest, you know, and there was a disconnect with who I was as a person, and what I was supposed to be as a man. And that disconnect created quite a bit of unhappiness. And it's very common among a lot of young men, because you're taught that you are supposed to be the provider, you know, you're taught that you're supposed to be able to control everything in your sphere around you. But in this day and age, like when things are so difficult and you don't have access to social mobility for a lot of people, you know, or they don't have access to opportunities, you know, how can you now look after the family, or how can you have all these archaic, well, they're not archaic, I suppose it's still a bit relevant, but how can you have all these values now when, you know, like you then get upset that, oh, my wife is earning more money than me, but I should be the breadwinner. So it was a whole process of just letting all that go, you know, looking around, drawing conclusions from the life you see and not what you've had before. You know, so it's been a journey. It's still an ongoing journey to almost like shed all that, because even when I was in the army, I was in special forces as well. So we would, you know, you're almost at the highest level of training, you're almost unbreakable. And I think the downturn really happened when we had a helicopter incident and I smashed my shin, and I was the fastest runner and I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't compete on that level again. And it created a lot of unhappiness. I left, went to university, and that just followed. So it's kind of, the whole therapy was almost very overdue, because as a man, you thought, I don't need to ask for help, or I shouldn't ask for help, you know. But it's the most basic thing. Everybody needs help. And it's just coming to that understanding that we all need someone to speak to. We all need to learn to be open about how we feel, you know, and just moving on from that. Like, for a man, it shouldn't be about dominance. It should be about compassion, you know, and just having kids, I suppose it just changes everything. So that's why I picked Calm as like a charity to be involved in. We were supposed to run the Brighton Marathon for them in April, which got postponed to September, which it's fine, you know. I mean, like you just, training's gone down, but as it comes nearer again, motivation picks up, and then you take yourself there. Yeah, so that's why I represent family.
So it's so interesting what you say, Jonathan, because you have a set of values in yourself, but you were brought up with a different set of values, and that can create I think you use the word, I think, disconnect, a great disconnect with people, and also coming to a different community as well can make things very, very stressful, because it's kind of how do I marry all of this and be myself, be authentic to me, can be, that's an identity issue, isn't it? So I'm so glad that you spotted that in yourself, but it sounds like you went quite a way along a path before you realized this was something that needed addressing in a formal way.
Yeah, and it's important also to understand where the values and the ideas came from, because when you look at my dad and the way he was brought up was very different. It's a generational sort of thing, and I think as people, as humans, what we kind of want to do is always break the cycle, take what's good, leave what's bad, but instead of just having opinions that are so fixed, and I suppose it's quite relevant to the conversation everyone's having today about the Black Lives Matter movement. There are opinions. Everybody has opinions. Everybody was taught stuff by their parents because their parents had different experiences. But I suppose what we have to do now is just look around and go, this is what I've heard. But what do I see? What do I feel when I engage with another person? And that just has to be a conversation everybody needs to have.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more compassion. And you actually exude quite a lot of compassion. When I first met you, you're one of those people, you don't have to say anything, but it comes from you. And that's quite something. Not many people have that.
It's been that's the disconnect, because if you speak to my army buddies, they go, yeah, Ranger Jonathon, yeah, he's tough and he's hard. But then when you engage with other people, they go, oh no, he's a nice guy and stuff like that. So it's almost like there's nothing wrong with being tough and nice, when you have to do a duty or what, but like you don't really get that when you're surrounded just by people of the same. So you're almost like in this real bubble, and you think the rest of the world is in that bubble, but they're kind of not. So it's about transcending that,
and it's not an either or. It's what is useful in this situation. What aspect of myself do I need to bring to this particular situation right now? And it's not an either or. Well, you don't
Absolutely.
have to. It is an a kind of a choice.
You can be both. You can be compassionate and powerful. That's cool.
Exactly. Tell me, what are the, you might have hinted at it just now actually, what are the ways that you like to manage your stress, other than what you're obviously talking to somebody right now, but other ways that you like to manage stress?
So this is
smiling.
like
it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, so keeping fit and running, because running as well just gets me into a state of flow. I stopped running for a long while because everything got very competitive, as part of the whole mental framework. And now I'm enjoying it because you just put the headphones on, listen to an audiobook, just go for a run, and you just, so that's one way of sort of getting into flow and listening. I enjoy reading a lot, and now the transition to audiobooks is just brilliant, because you don't have time to sit on the sofa anymore without a 1-year-old just batting the book away. So just having that time to put the headphones on and go for a run, that's been really good. I like to run, I like to swim. What else do I like to? I game, so I'm a bit of a gamer, but it's now so restricted to like 1 hour a week, just for me to like. I enjoy a bit of chess. I play with Celeste chess. Just anything that engages me, that pulls me out of my current space and puts me somewhere else. That's kind of what I use to manage my stress. It's not, and also understanding that it's not escapism. It is just experiencing something different for a while. And it's brilliant.
Using a different part of your brain.
Yes.
And switching modes. And you use the word flow a lot. I like that, because I think when you're in your flow, everything is less stressful. You're just kind of invited forward, so to speak. So you've mentioned books quite a bit. Do you have a book recommendation, something that's either been uplifting or enlightening, or that's really helped you?
Yeah, so I I've just read Barack Obama's book Dreams from My Father.
Yeah,
It's just an amazing book, and
yeah,
I think so I was able to, it's been useful for me because I've been able to draw a couple of similarities from the
yeah,
book, and I think him writing the book was his own version of therapy,
yeah,
being able to pan out these thoughts of being mixed, of having issues with identity,
yeah,
gender dominance and things like that,
yeah,
and how like he transcends. So Dreams from My Father is basically a book in which he is looking to experience his father's life, because obviously growing up with the mom, growing up in Hawaii with white grandparents, how do you now connect back to culture? What's relevant, what's not relevant?
yeah,
The biggest sort of issue identity wise I've had, it's been in Singapore I'm Nigerian, and in Nigeria I'm Singaporean, and in the UK I'm Nigerian Singaporean. Like home is always like almost
where you're not.
where's home, so Barack Obama sort of takes you on a journey where it gets to where he's going, and it's a brilliant, amazing journey, and it allows a lot of people to have to gain a bit of perspective on issues other people face. So that's a book I
Yeah,
definitely recommend to get.
yeah. I read that book. It's quite an old book now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. He wrote that
Yeah,
before he was president.
yeah. I really enjoyed it, and he's a man of great. Again, he exudes compassion
Mm.
and gravitas and grace. So, I think he's somebody who leads from a position of calm and presence. A calm, benign presence. Benign is perhaps not the right word, but compassionate presence.
Yeah,
I also read his wife's book.
amazing,
Oh my God, that woman,
amazing,
wasn't
amazing.
it?
She's actually, and he says this at some point in his other book. He says, if I ever had to run against my wife, I would lose, because she's powerful.
I
Michelle
know.
is, oh, definitely, and
I
she's a
know.
better storyteller. So you can tell he's very like straight to the point. Like if he could summarize like a whole paragraph in a word, he'd do it. Whereas Michelle brings so much context, and so Becoming is another brilliant book. Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one that I'll read again and again.
Mm.
So yeah, it was excellent. As are you. So thank you very much indeed
Thank
for
you so
your
much.
time today. I've really enjoyed it. So we'll be sharing it around so everyone else can enjoy it as well.
Cool,
All
cool.
right.
Thank you so much.
So I hope to see you again soon.
All right, take care.
All right. You take care too. Yeah, switching off now. See you.